Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a fantastic day. We're just having a blast here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another segment of Going for the One as Ken chuckles. We are looking at our favorite debut releases, all for the month of September. And Ken is up again with his next pick. Ken?
Thank you, boss. I'm going to take us to August 1986 with the um, debut album of the Malanes.
The Malanes, you say?
Yes, otherwise known as Crowded House. So, yes. Um, a little, just a wee bit of background here. In 1980, I heard a song called I Got You. I looked into it, and it was by a band called Split Ends from their album True Colors. Split Ends from New Zealand, not Australia. Don't make that mistake. You'll make people very angry.
Yes, you will.
So, and I became a huge fan of Split Ends from that point on until they disbanded in 1984. And to me, their latest, their second stage was their best, which is the time when Neil Finn joined the band as guitar player. Even on his first outing with the band on their first album, he only wrote and sang one song. So his brother, Tim, was the founding member of the band and the primary uh, songwriter and lead singer. So, and he's very good too. But anyway, so Split Ends broke up in 84. I was a sad boy. So then suddenly in 85, I
Smart
read
ass.
somewhere that uh, Neil Finn and Paul Hester, the drummer from Split Ends, were putting together their own band. So I'm thinking, Um, and they got Nick Seymour on bass and created one of my favorite trio bands. And in '86, they released their debut album, which is self-titled. This album is um, is amazing. I'll jump to part of the meat of it. This album and actually the entire band cannot be separated from the hit off of this album called "Don't Dream It's Over."
Mm-hmm.
It is, and it's just an amazing song, and it's been covered so many times because it is so beloved, not just by fans, but others in the industry too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So this album they brought in to produce, they brought in um, Mitchell Fromm, who few people outside of the industry would recognize. But previously, he worked with Bob Dylan, Sheryl Crow, Peter Gabriel, Bonnie Raitt, Paul McCartney, and many others. Excellent producer. This album, 11 tracks. Now, depending on which version you may find, the song lineup may be a little bit different. I think there's two different versions. I think it was primarily the cassette version that had a different opening song, but but the one that's most common is the one that opens with the song "Mean to Me." So 11 tracks, and it spawned five quite strong singles. That's almost 50%. We know how Armando feels about that. So the album peaked at number 12 on the US Billboard 200. But, and of course, it was a massive success in Australia and New Zealand, where I'm not sure now, but for a long time, it was the greatest selling album of that region, of that
Mhm.
part of the hemisphere. Um, so this album, the songwriting, the playing, the production still maintained many of the foundational aspects of latter Split Enz recordings, which, like I said, I loved anyway. But at the same time, it moves forward away from that into really even more of Neil Finn's, style. Um, and uh, and each album just for so many years just got better and better. Um, this album is praised for being for its melodic strength, a lot of emotional depth, personal, very personal songwriting in the lyrics. Um, and over the years, Crowded House has been compared by music critics, compared to the Beatles, the Smiths, and even REM, which is kind of a strange amalgam if you think about it. But that's because Neil Finn is so incredibly versatile in his songwriting. And at first, especially for their first three albums, there is a very strong pop sensibility, and but in a good way, in a very unique way. They don't sound like really anybody else, at least to my ears. Um, some of the best songs, other than the title song, "Don't Dream It's Over," I'm the aforementioned "Mean to Me," "Something So Strong," which is kind of it's kind of explains itself in the title. But "Carry On," "Tombstone," there's an incredible song called "Hole in the River," which is about the passing of his aunt, the family member, and you wouldn't really quite get it, but so his lyrics really can be your typical, pop love song, or but he's all over the place. And if you look at Neil over throughout his career, it's kind of hard to peg him down. For instance, when he eventually made his own solo album, very different from this. We've talked about it on this channel, and um, and some of us here really just couldn't quite, relate to it because it was so different. Yeah, but that's fine. Jim's been wrong before. So
Once.
He'll be
Just
wrong
once.
again, more than once, but go ahead.
so yeah, this was the start of a lifelong love for me. Um, and they went through. They're right now into what I call Crowded House 2.0, which he brought on two of his sons and some other musicians, and they released two albums over the last, I think, 5 years that have been, I think, sold quite well and are highly regarded.
The latest being Gravity Stairs. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very different, for me. Actually, I kind of like Crowded House, 1.0, but that's fine. Like I said, the last two albums have been very successful, and it just goes to show um, his creativity over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all of us can probably name a handful of artists at least that has had a very long career where we say, yeah, they should have hung it up, 10 years ago or however long ago. I know I have my personal list of that, but
I won't even go there.
Yeah, with they say Paul Hester, the drummer, fantastic. Therein lies another tragic story
Hmm.
of musical genius that was very troubled personally. He eventually, at one point, committed suicide. Um, and just like other individuals that suffer from uh, such things, he was the clown of the group. He was the one that was always, joking and very upbeat and whatever. I always think of Robin Williams um, when I think about that kind of personality. But Nick Seymour is a wonderful bassist. And even though they're a trio on the albums, there is some really good keyboard work done. And that's mostly done from the producer, Mitchell Fromm, a wonderful keyboard player who is now a permanent part of the band in this 2.0 version.
Yeah.
But some really strong pop stuff here, but in a good way. A lot of times I talk about pop as being, formulaic and boring and non-creative and whatever, but this is pop the way it should be and the way it is. If you dig, sometimes if you dig through enough shit, you'll find a pony. So, the pony. This is a nice pony. So,
Ooh, okay.
Crowded,
I've heard it all now. Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Crowded House, 1986, self-titled. Um, One of my favorite debut albums ever.
I will have stuff to say, but I'd like to hear what Sagosh has to say.
True.
Oh, I love this album. I love Crowded House, Neil Finn, Split Ends, Finn Brothers, everything they've ever done. Uh, it's a great album, but for me, it is diminished only by the brilliance that comes beyond it. I mean, as good as it is, I feel like every Crowded House album that followed was better, at least up till Together Alone, which I think is their finest.
Yes.
But no, there's some fantastic songwriting here. And Neil Finn has this tremendous ability to churn out melodies that are essentially unusual, but when you listen to them, they feel so natural. They feel like they've always been there, and he's just plucked them out of thin air. And he has
Exactly.
this,
That's a good way to
this
describe it.
light dark dynamic going on, where often you'll find that his verses tend to be, more on the minor key side and darker. Suddenly, this beauty bursts through in a very bright and uplifting chorus, and that to me is the hallmark of Crowded House and Neil Finn's songwriting, really, that he can really capture you with those choruses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah, I think the songwriting itself is just it's the strength on which this whole album stands. I mean, there's just some genius songwriting on here. Um, I know every time I bring this up, Ken winces a little bit, but the three times that I saw Crowded House on their debut tour, um, there were a lot of songs. Well, there were at least three songs that they were playing live at that time that ended up on the subsequent album. So like When You Come, Sister Madly, and Better Be Home Soon were all part of the live set when they were touring that first album. So that just shows that, at the time, Finn was just overflowing with fantastic,
Yeah.
utterly fantastic songs. And you're right about Paul Hester. I mean, he was kind of the court jester on stage, and he was always bringing the audience and the band up. Um, do want to just Ken alluded to this earlier that there are, a few different versions of the album out there. Um, I know when I picked it up originally, it's like when it first came out, that's the version that's kind of stuck in my head where it starts off with World Where You Live, and then yeah, the original album was only 10 tracks. Can't Carry On was added as a bonus track on the CD. just kind of stuck right in the middle after Hole in the River and before then whatever the next track is, Tombstone, I think. Um,
I walk
um,
away from.
I walk away.
yeah, could be I Walk Away. Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, I absolutely love this Crowded House album. It's so burned into my head as, you know, equating it with that time of life in college and friends and experiences and whatnot. I just embrace this album with a big freaking hug every chance I get. I love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
And I think it was in 2005. There was a two disc version
Yep.
released, and the second disc has 17 um, mostly demos, but with a couple of live versions. And also for all of the albums through, I can't remember which one, but there are special two disc editions
Hmm.
that they released not that long ago. Yeah, I dug deep into my pockets and got all of them at once. Um,
It's a hell of a pocket to dig into then for all
it
that. Yeah.
is, but
Yeah.
and yeah, and Shigosh, you're right. I mean, every album he just kept raising the bar every time. This one, it anyone that's listened to what I've said on this channel, a lot of these albums have a particular sentimental reasons, and a lot, and this is whereas I don't think it's necessarily overall as good as some of the ones that came after. The fact that it's what came first, and all of the emotions that I relive when I listen to this album, from that time, it just brings everything back up, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, that time and place thing is really important. I mean, I can't listen to this music without thinking about seeing them live and hearing them play I Got You, hearing them play the some Sex Pistols tunes from the stage as well. I mean, it was just absolutely
Oh,
crazy. The audience was in bedlam.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be said too, and this is my 2 cents to it. And the two songs, Don't Dream It's Over and Something So Strong, especially Don't Dream It's Over, was a massive hit. I
Yeah,
mean, it was all over the radio. It was all over Much Music and MTV, I would imagine, when it came out, like ad nauseum almost. So, and when I hear Don't Dream It's Over, I'm brought back to 1986. I'm
yeah,
16 again.
yeah,
It just brings up an emotion that it can't even be described or defined.
yeah.
So I get that. I get that.
And the strength of his songwriting, you mentioned the song "Something So Strong." That is such a simple song. That is
Sure.
the typical three chord song, but with the lyrics and just the way it's crafted it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's still. And so you get a little bit of all kinds. You get a little bit of new wave. You get pure pop. You'll even get a little taste of country western in some of their stuff. Um, so very versatile. And Shigosh, I do agree with you. I recommend albums that he made with his brother Tim uh, under the title either the Finn Brothers or just Finn. There's several of those that are
Yeah.
absolutely unbelievable and incredibly
Especially
musical.
is here. It's fantastic album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
2000.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Another segment of Going for the One, our favorite debut albums. Um, Thank you for that, Ken, talking about Crowder House. Ladies and gentlemen, please put down in the comments below your opinions of these albums that we're talking about, or debut albums that you want to talk about, and just let us know. Maybe we're missing others that we have no idea about. Um,
Maybe
Again,
they'll come up later.
exactly.
We're only halfway through, folks.
We want to get a good dialogue going about this, and
Yeah.
I'm having fun doing this series. I can't speak for the other three, but I'm having a good time. Anyways, um, again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you soon. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Again, to keep yourselves on top of any new content we got coming up. For Sagosh, Ken, and Jim, I'm Armando signing off. We'll see you soon with another episode of Going for the One. Bye for now.